Hey, welcome to this video on anxiety and depression. This video is super helpful. We get asked all the time, like, what do you do when you're the one supporting someone going through anxiety and depression? And yeah, Jess had so many tips to do and not to do around this subject, and I found it super helpful for me personally, and I think you really will too if you're supporting someone in this space.
Alright, so yes, Ben, today we're going to talk about how we might be able to support people experiencing anxiety or depression, and also where people can get support if they want to know more or if they're experiencing it themselves. So thought we'd play a fun little game of just how to support and how not to support. So we've got a little bowl of pre-prepared things here, and I'm going to get you to dig through and bring one out at a time, and we'll decide whether it is helpful or unhelpful.
Helpful or unhelpful, okay. So, comparing experiences. Yeah, this is what I do, for sure.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's easy to do though.
It feels like I'm empathizing with them.
It does.
So why is it not a good thing to do then?
So if you've got, if you're having a conversation with someone who is experiencing anxiety and depression, particularly diagnosed, unless you've had lived experience of yourself, like we've all had our down moments or our anxious moments, but unless you've gone through it yourself, you can't compare those experiences. And even if you have gone through it yourself, everyone experiences it in unique ways. So when someone shares with you something and you go, oh yeah, I totally know what you mean, this is what happened to me, I experienced this, it takes it away from the other person, puts the focus back on you, and kind of invalidates, like it kind of invalidates what they've experienced, because you're saying, so you know the same thing.
I can see that. Like, even though it's not what I'm trying to, I can see that that could be the case. Like, we're minimising how they're feeling by trying to relate to how they're feeling.
And the intent is always good, like, because we can have shared experiences, and sometimes it is actually helpful to share those experiences. And how was that for you? And oh yes, I, experienced this, and what did you do about it? And so if that is open, that conversation, if they want that, then share your experiences. But they're not the same still. So you can share them and learn from each other, but they're not the same. So comparing and saying, I know exactly how you feel. I got nervous before a presentation, so I know the anxiety. When you're talking to someone with a diagnosed anxiety disorder, it's not the same.
Or even just might not be diagnosed, but someone being in a deep place of anxiety, and you're meaningly comparing it to something that's very different to what they're going through.
And it always, ultimately, it's taking the focus off them in that moment and putting it back on yourself, which can sometimes be very difficult for the other person. So that's why that one is a
All right, what have we got next? So, being over-involved, overprotective, or patronising. Really? That's not good.
Saw that one coming.
Over-involved, like, I get the patronising bit. What's over-involved? What would that look like?
So over-involved is when you, I guess you almost take responsibility for that person and for fixing them and finding solutions, or, well, I'm going to do everything for you. If you're, if you're feeling depressed or you're struggling with depression, right, I'm going to start doing this for you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to find all the solutions for you. Or how about you do this? Or, so it's kind of stepping into that fix-it mode. Becoming the rescuer. Or even if they are wanting some of that practical support, just finding the line between giving practical support and then not becoming dependent on you for it. So we can get a little bit too involved sometimes with other people's experiences or when they're suffering, out of, again, good intention, but just try not to be over the top, or think of them as, if someone has let you know that they're really experiencing this and they're going through a hard time, don't suddenly become that overprotective, that concerning puppy eyes, and I've got to wrap you in a bubble, and oh, you're so fragile, I've got to be careful around you, or you've got to be careful, that's really kind of not disempowering as well. So that's what I mean by that.
Thank you for explaining that. Know what to do. All right, so cheer up, you'll be right, toughen up, or have a cup of concrete, mate, harden up. Should we say that?
All the wrong ones are coming out first. Yeah, no. And that's, sometimes we want to be positive, we want to put a positive spin on things, or we are not actually acknowledging the seriousness of it or what they're experiencing. So we might go, oh, well, it's just a bit of feeling down, cheer up, or, oh, you're just tired, get some sleep and get out of bed and get on with your day.
Because when we're in a reasonably healthy space, if you're a bit down, those things might be helpful. And they might have worked for us. But if someone's in a place of deep anxiety, depression, that's not going to help at all. And so
it trivialises.
We're minimising again what they're actually going through.
Absolutely. And it's not understanding that depression and anxiety is not just a mood swing. It's not just I'm lazy, or they're being lazy, or I can't be bothered, or it's more than that. So that positive thinking, that rose-coloured glasses doesn't always work. Like, yes, bring hope and bring encouragement, but don't trivialise by going too far with the just cheer up.
No worries. I think I got one right. So encourage professional help. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Hooray!
Okay. So that's
Absolutely.
A good one, clearly.
Yeah, for both of those things, encouraging someone to seek out help through a doctor, a counsellor, a psychologist, always really valuable. Doesn't mean they'll be ready for it yet. They might not take you up on that yet. It's not your job to make them, but encourage it. Definitely encourage if you're witnessing, because they might not know they are going through depression or severe anxiety yet, and you've been concerned about them. So one of the suggestions that you might want to make is, hey, have you thought about going into a doctor to talk about this, or to a counsellor to talk about what you're feeling? Because I've just noticed this and I'm a little bit worried about you. How do you feel about doing that? So always encourage, I think, seeking professional help. And it's not a sign of weakness, as we know, we've discussed this before, it's a sign of strength. So
totally. Can we get 2 for 2? Fixing, giving solutions.
We kind of touched on this before with the over-involvement. But I think, again, out of good intent sometimes.
We want to get them out of that place.
We don't like seeing people down, and we go, we've got to fix them, or we don't know how, or it's because we don't know how to deal with it. We don't know how to deal with it ourselves. So we're like, oh, I've got to fix them, I've got to get them back up. And so we try and just throw solutions at them rather than sit with what they're experiencing and acknowledge it. So, or it might be that you've actually done something or heard of something, or you read something, you're like, oh, I heard this really great treatment, or do you know what worked for me is I cut out all of this and I felt so much better. Or we do it all the time. We always put our experiences onto other people and say, this worked for me, it's going to work for you.
I think there's a bit of a theme. Let's see if I get a good one. Do meaningful and fun things together. Winning.
Hooray!
Okay.
So this is particularly aligned with people who are experiencing depression. Sometimes I guess friends or family might think, well, we can't do anything fun together, or we can't have fun, it's all focused on this. But actually it's good to be intentional about trying to do experiences with that person, even when they're ready, and meaningful things as well. So it might even be, pursuing a goal together, or hey, some people might want to join up and do a triathlon together, or volunteer together, or just go and have fun.
Having to do the triathlon, having to train for it.
So that won't be for you, that's for sure.
But finding something you can do together that they'll enjoy, that will.
And it gives a sense of, if it's got some sort of sense of purpose and meaning behind it, that's actually really beneficial. When you're experiencing depression, is to find that meaning and find that purpose again, as well as have enjoyable activities scheduled in. So you're not always going to quite make it. Like, you might have one of those days where I can't get out of bed, but so don't shy away from still engaging in activities with that person, or doing things with them. So don't shy away from that.
Cool. What's next? just be there.
Yes. We overthink it.
Yeah, so what, can you explain what that is? Like, how do
Yeah.
you just be there?
So just being there might just be listening to them when they need to be heard and not saying anything. It might just be sending a text message to check in, how you doing today? It might be dropping a meal over and leaving. It could just be being that person that they do their fun activity with. You know, it's just being around, letting them know that you're there to support them if they need you, and you know, you're not trying to find solutions, you're not trying to fix anything, you're just checking in, you're there, you're consistent, and sometimes that's all that's needed is, hey, they might not be very responsive, but knowing that someone's checking in, like, I know I'm getting a text message from my friend, they're thinking about me, that's awesome, I'm not up to responding right now, but it means a lot. So they might not be engaging in that initially, but be there.
Yeah, sweet. Helping people avoid situations. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Talk me through, I don't even know what that
Yep,
is.
so some, without context, it's like, oh, what is that? So particularly with anxiety, so someone is experiencing quite severe anxiety, often, and we talked about this in one of the previous videos, is that people will experience that anxious feeling. They don't like this feeling, it's uncomfortable, so I need to run away from this situation or avoid this thing. The brain goes, relief, all right, let's learn to avoid it in future. Anxiety increases, so on. Sometimes, because we're trying to be helpful, we don't want to see people going through that, we go, all right, well, let's help you avoid these situations completely.
Okay.
When part of treatment is actually sort of graded exposure to the things that
you talked
provoke
about
that
that in the other
anxiety.
videos.
Yeah, so trying to, if you're coming in and helping them avoid everything that makes them anxious, you could be prolonging their recovery
Yeah, I never thought about that
and
way.
increasing anxiety.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by that.
Yeah, if I go back to one of the other videos, if someone's had a panic attack around attending preschool, let's just say that. So we don't want to avoid it altogether because that might prolong it, but it's more about it's gently coming back into that space. So,
and that's not
is that
something
what
you
you're
have
saying?
to take on because, you know, obviously
Or we don't want to help them, like we're,
yeah, I mean, there's a line. You're not going to push someone into a situation they're not ready for. And again, that's not your job to. You can encourage things, but like I think when we see someone get a little bit fearful of, all right, well, school's starting to make me anxious, or going to the shops is making me anxious, and we just go, all right, well, let me do all the shopping for you.
Yeah.
You stay at home. I'm going to make sure you never have to go to a shop again.
Yeah. Which only normalises them not having to do it.
Yeah.
Makes it harder to actually journey back into that space.
Yeah.
Is that?
So yeah.
Thank you for clearing that up. Yeah, it's helped me
It's a
understand.
tricky one, but yeah.
It's a tricky one. Be informed.
Correct. So
Watch videos like this.
exactly. So being informed is one of the best things you can arm yourself with. So particularly if someone you know is going through a mental health concern that you don't know much about, or you don't know what the experience is like for them, learn about it. We've got heaps of resources below the video that you can check out, wealth of information, including how to support people with anxiety and depression. It'll give you even how to have conversations, what kind of supports are there. There's courses like mental health first aid that you can do as well, that covers, you know, how to respond to someone experiencing a mental health concern, particularly when it's a bit more urgent. So it goes through depression, anxiety, goes through substance use, you know, eating disorders, you know, and teaches you about what they look like, how to support someone, where you can get help. So yeah, being informed is really great, because then you're coming from, at least from a place of feeling a bit more equipped and understanding a little bit more about what that person's going through. So you don't have to be an expert.
The links we're going to have are going to guide people to a whole range of great information, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So whether you are experiencing anxiety or depression yourself, or you're trying to support someone feeling that way, then these links are actually great for both of you. So
Awesome. Only a couple left. Have a conversation.
correct.
I'm doing better this second half, I think.
We're getting onto the good ones. So yeah, this is more about if you are...
That's pretty scary for most people though.
It is, yeah.
For for me, like not knowing what to say sometimes. I think.
Yeah.
So that's why I text sometimes. It's like, just try to touch base and say, just thinking of it, because I literally don't know what to say.
And that's okay. And sometimes it's actually okay to say that too. So if someone has, expressed something or something quite heavy to you, or is going through something, you can literally, again, coming back to just be there, you can say, wow, that sounds really hard. I don't know what to say right now, but I'm here.
Okay.
And with the having a conversation, if you are noticing in people that they're withdrawing more, or they're experiencing mood swings or tiredness or irritability or things, again, go back to those anxiety and depression videos with the symptoms and signs, have a conversation. Pick the time and place. Hey, how you going? Anything going on in your world right now? I've noticed this, I'm just wondering if you're okay. They might not open up, but at least that could be the step towards them going, oh, they've noticed and I know they're there for me for when I'm ready to talk. So, or it could be just that I don't know what to say, but I'm here. So again, being informed helps with that too. So
yeah. So by just saying that, like, I don't know what to say, but
that's
I'm here,
okay.
is being present, right? Like,
you're allowed to not know what to say.
So far enough, this one says, ask, how can I best support you?
Yes. Good question to ask. One that we don't think of to ask. And the reason that's in there is because support looks different for different people. So we might think we are supporting someone in the best way because it's what we know, but they don't feel supported by that. Yeah. So I think asking them, well, what is it that you do need right now? What's the best thing I can do for you right now? Because it might be that, look, I'm not up to this yet, but hey, if you want to just check in via text, that's really comforting. Or hey, actually I do really need help with some practical things. Again, finding that line where you're not becoming their rescuer or they're becoming dependent on you, but it's just more about understanding how they feel supported and what's best for them, rather than assuming that we know. And again, all done with good intent, so no one's doing the wrong thing or trying to do the wrong thing, but we just, it's helpful to ask that question.
Cool.
Is that the lucky last?
Good one. This is the last one.
Please be good, please be good.
Nag them to do things.
In case you didn't hear that, it was nag them to do things. And this can actually it can come in with both people experiencing anxiety or depression. So sometimes when people have depression, from an outside perspective, it can look like you can't be bothered, you're not doing anything, you're being lazy, or you're not trying, apathetic. And so we nag them to get out and about and just do all the things they would normally do, or we've seen them doing before. But when you have depression, that's part of the symptoms and signs, is that those activities you once were engaged with and enjoyed, you no longer enjoy, and it's really hard to do them.
So just getting them to do that doesn't mean it's actually going to bring energy back.
And nagging's not going to help, because again, it's kind of pushing that person, as well as not understanding it's not just this kind of choice that they're making that they've got complete control over in that moment. Same with anxiety. So again, we talked about not avoiding situations completely, but also not nagging them and pushing them to do things they're not ready to do yet, or it's going to be quite confronting or traumatic for them. So we've got to be patient with people when they're experiencing this sort of stuff, and just learn to go with where they're at as well, rather than nag, because that's the tricky thing. If you've been friends with someone or someone in your family and you're used to seeing them do all these activities and used to them being out and used to being positive, and they start to change, it's hard to adapt to that, and it's hard to see that, like why are they doing this? Why are they being like this? So come on, just get going again.
It's need a little push.
Just need a little push out of bed. No. So nagging's not good. So we didn't quite finish on the positive ones, but so hopefully there's some tips, and like I said, down in the, below the video, stack of resources for you, including how to have some of those conversations, where to get help, where to get professional help, numbers that people can call, signs and symptoms of depression, anxiety, all of it. So whether you're experiencing it yourself or you're trying to support someone that has it, then definitely check out all the links below because they're a wealth of information.